We live in a world that never slows down. Everything is faster, louder, more overwhelming than ever before. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, people started looking back at simpler times and back when things felt real, tangible, uncomplicated. And that's when something interesting happened. Products from the past started to make a comeback. Vinyl records, typewriters, hell, even the tape deck is seeing a comeback, which I don't mind. Reminds me of the endless Saturday mornings I used to sit and listen to the top 40. One finger on the record button and the other on the play button. And you had to get the timing spot on in between songs to make sure that you stopped before the jingle interrupted and before the end of the song. Those were the days. But why? Well, one professor put it perfectly. People get nostalgic when they're anxious about the future. Because the past is safe, it's predictable, it's home. And smart brands have started to figure this out. They stopped selling products and started selling feelings, memories, a doorway back to a time when life made sense. Because here's the thing, it doesn't matter if you actually lived through that era, what matters is how it makes you feel. And if a brand can make you feel that, they don't just have a customer, they have a believer. There's something about a classic motorcycle that no algorithm can explain. It's not the horsepower, it's not the top speed, it's the way the thing looks sitting in your driveway at 7 in the morning. It's the sound it makes when you blip the throttle just to hear it. It's a feeling that somewhere between you and the machine and the road, nothing else exists. That's what a modern classic promised. A motorcycle that looked like it belonged in 1969 but started first time every time. No carburetors to balance, no points to set, just a vintage soul wrapped around a reliable modern heart. And for a while, we fell for it. But something interesting was happening in British showrooms. Whilst most categories of motorcycles were either standing still or sliding backwards, the modern classic segment was doing the opposite. Riders were walking past the adventure bikes, walking past the naked roadsters and gravitating in growing numbers towards the retro stuff. And the bikes they were choosing tell a story of themselves. It wasn't the expensive, fully loaded flagships leading the way. It was the simple ones, the Triumph Speed 400, a no-frills, mid-capacity single that felt closer to a classic motorcycle than anything Triumph had put out in years. This became the biggest selling bike in the country. Not the best-selling modern classic, the best-selling motorcycle, full stop. And then right behind it was the Honda GB350S, air-cooled, affordable, and about as uncomplicated as a new motorcycle gets. It became a genuine phenomenon, the kind of bike that got people who drifted away from motorcycling walking back into dealerships. And the message from the British riders couldn't have been clearer. Give us something with character, but give us something real. But here's where the story gets complicated. Because while those simple, honest machines were flying out the door, the rest of the modern classic world was quietly heading in a different direction. Take the Scrambler 1200 for example, a stunning machine to look at genuinely. But open up the spec sheet and you start to wonder. 6 riding modes, cruise control, a full color display that you can customize, Bluetooth connectivity. It's a remarkable piece of engineering, but is it still a classic? The Bonneville itself tells the same story. The original 1960s version was a bike a teenager could maintain in a garage with basic tools. The modern equivalent is sophisticated, water-cooled, and electronics-laden machine that happens to wear the same name and share the same silhouette. But it's heavier, more complex, and in many ways, a completely different philosophy wearing a very similar costume. And again, none of that technology is inherently bad. These bikes are safer, more reliable, more capable than anything that came before them. But you have to ask the honest question. At what point does a modern classic stop being classic at all? And there's one thing in particular worth talking about, and that's the screens. Walk into any dealership today and you'll find modern classics fitted with TFT displays that wouldn't look out of place in a luxury car. They're getting bigger every year, more connected, more customizable, and on the surface, it seems like progress. But there's a quieter concern under it all. Those screens don't last forever, and when they go, and eventually they will, they can't simply be replaced by a local mechanic with the spare parts. They're tied to the bike's electronics in ways that only an authorized dealer can unpick. The simplicity that defined the classic motorcycle, the idea that the machine belonged to you, that you could understand it, fix it, starts to disappear the moment that screen goes on the dashboard. And UK riders have already been caught up by this. Damp getting behind displays, screens failing, and in a country where it rains more often than it doesn't, that's becoming a problem. So think about bikes that have become true classics, bikes from the 60s and 70s that are still on the road today, still repairable, still loved. The question worth asking is whether today's modern classics will still be rideable in 30 years' time. And honestly, it's not clear that they will be. So what happened next? The market started to reflect all of this. Even the broader UK motorcycle market hit a rough patch in 2025. Modern classics held up better than any other category. Riders weren't abandoning the retro aesthetic, if anything they were doubling down on it. But the nuance was in the modern classics they were choosing. The simpler, more affordable, more honest machines kept selling. The Honda GB350S stayed at the top of the charts month after month. And then heading into 2026, the category as a whole started to cool. For the first time in several years, modern classic sales dipped. Even as the overall market began to recover, bikes that were selling well were again the straightforward ones, the stripped back ones, the ones who hadn't forgotten what they were supposed to be. So maybe there's a real tension at the heart of this, you see. A modern classic was born out of the longing for simplicity, not having a smartphone on wheels. And the manufacturers who choose to stay the truest to that sort of ethos, the ones who hold back from adding another rider mode, just something else we don't need, you know. So there's a question every manufacturer needs to ask themselves when they're building a new motorcycle, and whether they will or not, I'm not too sure. We used to have this race to who could create the most power. You know, back in the 90s when sports bikes were still a big thing, you know, there used to be a race to the top. Who can bring out the biggest engine, the biggest brake horsepower. Now it's who can add the most tech to their bikes, the most rider modes, the most rider aids, all the kind of stuff we don't really need. And the manufacturers really need to ask themselves, how much is too much? How modern is too modern? And are we going to lose the soul of motorcycling?